I one and the one and only Colino.
Cool.
Let's go, my brother.
I guess I should actually add the respawn on death commands to my exec so that people can just respawn in. I don't have to keep restarting the game every time. Let's see where we're at. I wonder if I set it up so that you respawn on death, does that mean that the game turns into you must plant the bomb and detonate it or defuse it in order to actually win? Thinking emoji. Might be.
I don't know.
Might
There's
be a
also
big
there's also a command MP. What is it? MP _ ignore round wing conditions.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that kind of fixes the problem with some round times in different game modes. If you ever encounter that issue, that you can't set your round times.
Yeah, one thing I saw in a Launders video somewhat recently was he had the warm-up frozen at 0:00, but it was still the red timer or whatever. So I think it was in warm-up or something. Maybe it wasn't in warm-up, maybe it was just a normal round. But it not having any time limit at all is actually better than 60 minutes. Not that I ever think we'll spend that much time, but there were actually a few times during the first-person mapper stream where we had 100% spent... like we had to restart the round just on a time thing or whatever, like the round was gonna end. I must say I'm a little lost without a radar, so that's unfortunate.
Ooh, there's no radar, yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, that's obviously one of the first things we can point out. Classic storytelling with the ladder and the little car there. This is how we got in. How we plan on getting out. Anybody's guess. Maybe there is no plan to get out, you never know.
Or you need to fight our way through.
Yeah, the only way out is through. Alright, let's take a look here. What's going on? Okay. Well, as long as we're looking alright, I suppose we can start here. So I actually have not... This is one of those maps that... the mappers I am not familiar with whatsoever. I don't know if they've made any other work. One of the good things about this contest in general that I think was... I think people have talked about it, but I'm not sure how many times it's been touted. But there's been a certain number of people who have like come in and made their first map for this contest, or like the first time they're publicly releasing it and trying to like really balance it out or whatever, you know. Maybe it's not their very first map, but it's one of them. That's been the case for this contest, so I thought that was really cool. It's less ambitious of an attempt to try to do a map like this compared to doing a map like for the Exotic Places contest, which obviously was like 5v5, and the people who were in there were pretty like high level in terms of the mappers that was going on there. So like that was a very different case, I think. But yeah, I think just something that was worth noting. It's pretty cool. I will say my FPS is dropping dangerously low just by looking at this building over here.
Yeah, my FPS are also a little bit low.
It's
not terribly, but noticeably.
Yeah, I go down to like 90 looking at that building, and I'm up to 250 when I look at this wall, so I don't actually know. Maybe it's the tree? I don't know. I can't tell. So something's up there, and obviously there's no radar. So this map is rough around the edges, we'll say that much. Lakewood by Colino, if you missed that from the earlier parts of the conversation. So since we have no radar, I guess we're just going to have to trace our steps.
Let's hope the layout is simple, otherwise we'll get lost very quickly.
Yeah. So we can't go this way, but isn't there a pathway over here?
It goes over the area that we can't access.
That feels a bit odd, but maybe that's more common than I'm remembering. It's probably a jump you can make. Oh, maybe not. Maybe that's disallowed.
Okay, there is a lot going on actually in this map.
Yeah, well, I'm back at spawn, and looking at the right side, at least that's pretty simple. Got unbreakable windows. Right, so if you take this left approach, you can either go vent into what I assume is the middle of the map, or you can wrap all the way around, and then I don't know where the CT spawn is. Oh, we do have a... Oh, under here, okay.
Oh, here.
So this is our one spawn man.
Ooh, source water.
Ah, source water. Don't make me look at source water. There's... Yeah, okay. Interesting. So as a spawner, as a CT on spawn, you can jump up here and do, like, it's a bit of an involved jumping sequence, but you can do that.
But why would you do it? That's the thing. Why would I not just run through here?
Yeah. So that's probably not very
So
common.
the entire thing can be cut, actually.
Yeah, I don't even see how you would do it as a post plant unless... Like, let's look at what control they could possibly have to stop you from just walking up there. If, like, say, okay, the tease plant, you're in a 1v2 or a clutch situation or something, and you were over here holding this angle, and you want to relocate and wrap all the way around. I mean, the idea of you being able to do that anyway seems a bit weird. But I guess aside from this line of sight, there's nothing... Well, that would also intercept this. So, there is no reason to have that back, that jumping area, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
I like the bomb site's initial point where we have, I don't know, I kind of like the fact that there's a decent amount of cover, that there's that door. I don't like that you can't jump on that, but I guess there's already a lot going on.
For me, there are a few too many different heights on the bomb site itself. Like, you have these, say, I think there are like 48 units high boxes, and then another 48 units high. And then here we have something like 50, 56. And an even higher one. Like, there are a lot of different weird elevations scattered throughout the entire site.
Yeah, one thing I'll say here is this sight line over here is not really adapted to either standing at base level or elevated on the box. I guess it's adapted to... Well, can you see my head?
Nope.
Okay. So it's like perfectly adapted to cover stuff like that. But then even this crate is a different height level than the crate that you're on. Like the crate that's in front of it that you were just standing on is I think it's a different height than this. I'm not sure. Maybe it's identical.
Very similar, actually. Oh, but it is a little bit lower, but I think that's because of... Is it smaller? It might be smaller, actually.
Maybe it's just placebo. Either way, if it's similar enough, it probably doesn't matter, but... Yeah. What's up, Fjorkg? No idea when the next mapper interview will happen. We're trying to make it a somewhat, like, a weekly, regular thing, but, we have yet to grab guests for the next one, so... When that happens, we'll see what happens. We'll announce it a bit ahead of time, I think. I'm wondering what the purpose of this blown out area is. I guess it's for nades.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not sure if there's really that many
but
useful
they
lineups.
So high.
Yeah. Yeah, I can smoke their spawn. That's about it. I can smoke the dumpster.
For a window like this, it's very close to the actual bomb site.
Yeah. No, I'm assuming you can probably smoke stuff that's like... Yeah. There we go. I don't know. Let's see where that one goes. No, that's also too far. Yeah, I have no idea how you would...
Maybe like bounce something off the skybox? No.
Pretty
Skybox
far.
is way too high.
A smoke grenade might be possible.
Perfect.
See? I know what I'm doing. So yeah, it seems like since the skybox is so high, you're better off just Well, there's some lineups that you can find outside of that. But yeah, I'm not sure what the point of this is.
Overall, I would say that the map is a little bit too interconnected. Like, it doesn't really matter which path I choose here, for example, back in T-spawn. To end up at the doors, I can either go straight or take the left one and come through this little vent here. And
yeah, but because you have to crouch through the vent, I don't know why anybody would ever want. This is purely for lurk, I guess, for CTs if they go up. Like, I don't see why you would ever...
it's
I'm trying to imagine the lines of scrimmage, and, like, I'm not seeing a world where a CT... Like, okay, you send one CT up here to hold this upper passageway, but I'm not sure why they would push for info or lurk forward into that vent when their bomb site is right here and they can just rotate down with a symbol jump, you know? So...
Yeah.
And then what is... I haven't really fully looked at this area yet. I mean, I've looked at it, but not really in depth. And...
So there's like two paths there.
Yeah, so there's like a left and a right, basically. Yeah.
Fire extinguisher.
Yeah, don't... This is a weapon, actually. This is... We can use this against the terrorists. Can't climb on the ceiling near the roof.
Yeah, that's also a little bit disappointing that gameplay space is on the same height as the roof of the map, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing
is
like...
It could be a little bit higher. It could be a more massive structure, generally.
Yeah. Okay, we can get on here. But we can't get up there, and we can't get up here. So I'm wondering why there's, like, various restrictions. Actually, let me see. Maybe I just suck at jumping. Can I boost you up here?
Nope.
Yeah, doesn't seem like it. So I'm wondering why that feels a little weird that it's only like that for one of the same prop. Whereas, like, obviously you can just jump over here.
Yeah. Probably because it's too close to the roof. I don't know. Maybe that here is an oversight, but on the other hand, they have these boxes here where they can boost over. Generally, there's an abundance of little boxes that you can jump on and need to jump on, which is kind of annoying because I would rather jump once onto a higher box instead of twice for smaller boxes.
Oh yeah, well it's like the CT jump where you have to jump 3 times. Oh, I guess only twice because that.
Well,
those
that's
logs.
clipped, but still.
Yeah.
But here, for example, this part here.
Yeah.
That could be done in 2 jumps instead of 3.
Right.
Very easily.
So yeah, it feels like maybe the main issues here are like angles, lines of sight, and then in general the mixed signals we get from the available gameplay space of the height, and then obviously the redundancy of certain pathways like the CT approach.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this whole left side for T's feels like, at least this vent area,
unnecessarily complex.
Destroyed.
There it is.
Yeah, the not 100% sure what would be low-hanging fruit as far as improving this map goes.
Removing routes.
Yeah.
Removing routes, I would say. Like, remove this window, and back where the door is, like, cut one of the connectors. Maybe even that connector through the vent here. And pull the other entrance closer. Something like that.
Yeah, because I always try to look to low-hanging fruit because I feel like it's a way for developers who've already put enough, like they've put effort into the map to the point where we're walking around it, you know? So if there's like easy things that they can do to level it up, that can also teach them a little bit about like, essentially what, like they were close, they just needed this small tweak here and there, and you know. But I do think that this map needs a bit more work than that implies. It's just that you'd get a lot of mileage out of the changes that we were just rattling off, so.
Another thing that I would suggest is reconsidering which of the smaller boxes, especially here on the bomb site, are really necessary, and which you want to keep. Because there are a lot of weird angles that you can create, and movement around the site feels a little bit clunky because of it too. So I would just clean that up a little bit and see what's actually necessary for the site to work.
Oh, apparently I can plant in this doorway.
Ooh.
That's probably not that big of a deal then. Oh. Wait.
Oh no.
Okay, never mind.
Well, plant it and then we close the door.
Yeah, as you can see, it's. I mean, that's still pretty good. We didn't just spam it. Oh. Annihilated. Well, I don't know. I think that's probably fine. This is our first one. Kick things off.
Good.
There you go. That was Lakewood by Colino. If he stumbles upon that, I hope he's able to update that map, or at least take some lessons from it into his next map. My CS just crashed. You know what that means?
Loading the workshop list again.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite part of all these streams, dude. How many times I get to see that.
Just me to blame.
Our next map is called Testsite. And I have no idea if that's actually what it's called on the workshop, but I think it is.
Yeah, it should be.
See, my thought process initially is that this map, like somebody would call their map Testsite because it's still testing and it's in beta, but it looks fairly polished on the workshop page, so maybe it's actually for testing. Like maybe the lore of the map is that they're testing something.
Yeah.
One can only hope.
Let's get in and get out. Come on, let's go. Let's get in and out.
Ooh, professionals.
Feel like these guys are underused. What's up,
They
Chief?
also have enormous bags.
They have enormous bags. Yeah, dude. Yes, there's all of these VODs are available on my YouTube channel. This is our fourth stream, although poLemin was not available for the second one, so we did the first and third one together. We're doing the fourth one together now, so you can check those out at your leisure. This is Testsite by McSad, I believe is the name. Which, well, I hope not, you know? I hope he's Mick happy after this. This is Nuke-like, but the colors are different, yeah. So it's original, right?
But it's also the truck. It's also the truck crashing into the property.
Throwing fire.
It feels nukey.
Yeah. This is not copying the other guy's homework so closely so that it looks like he changed a few answers. Oh, there's chickens! Dude, it's not Nuke at all.
Oh. Right. Are they testing on chickens? Is that what the test site is about?
Yeah, that might be the case. Whoa!
Oh, no.
Yes.
Grenade!
Oh. Oh?
Yeah, that's where we,
oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, what the hell, man? I mean, let me get back up there if I have a second to jump on my dead buddy's head. Anyway, I like physics objects. That was an excellent timing.
Oh. The vent is actually segmented.
So you can jump down there, or you can jump down here. I'm wondering why. I do like the idea of T's that just descend from the sky. I think that's pretty funny, but...
Okay, CT spawn.
Oh yeah, and it's nice having a radar, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I know that's setting our standards a little low, but...
A multi-level radar, even.
What? Well, that's not reasonable. So, the bomb site. Wow, those actually are pretty intense. Hold on. They repulse you.
Oh.
Some powerful bottles, dude. I was trying to plant the bomb and it spazzed out on me. Meanwhile. Oh wait, there's another one over here.
Vandal.
Anyway, all it's missing is a soccer ball. So, you can plant in a few different places. You can plant on the boxes. Okay. Well, go all out or don't go home. You know, you go big or go home. Why can I plant on this lower pipe, but I can't plant on this one? What the hell? You almost had me, dude. I almost loved this. Oh, I must be standing on the ground to plant C4. I guess I was broken or something. Oh, I can't actually make it through here.
Oh.
That feels like a bit of a clipping oversight, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Can I
Just
plant
a little
upper?
bit too tight.
I cannot plant on the CT heaven area. The map is well detailed, but I do feel like maybe it's a little too glossy, if that makes any sense. There's almost nothing happen. Like, it's all very much similar, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense theme-wise, but it is not very interesting to look at, especially since we all know Nuke already.
Psycho is this? Why? Why have they done this? This is the real testing experiment.
Ooh.
Wow. Whoa! I never get tired of playing around with busted physics. I don't know where these chickens are coming from, by the way. They just keep appearing.
Probably from the trash.
Could you imagine? Is there a dead guy in here? Oh man.
Is there one?
No. That's why I was disappointed.
So it's not Nuke.
Yeah. I think that was also the case in Train.
Yeah.
An old version of it or something.
Yep.
R.I.P. dead guy. So as a CT, what do you even want to do here? I feel like this might be Lazio territory where the CTs have already have map control, or like Porta or Porto, whatever that name was.
Well,
it's not to the same degree, but
yeah, they do have some sort of map control, like bomb site control initially, but they also have the option of giving it up for the sake of playing it from the flank here.
I'm very proud of myself.
Ooh. You just killed a monkey?
Now that's testing. I do appear to have dropped my FPS down to 30. Why does CSGO not like frags? Might have to restart the map. Oh, there you go. It seems back. Oh, wait. Dude, they missed out. Why can't this take me all the way to floor number 3?
That would be pretty cool.
I do like that there's this line of sight line over here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's pretty cool.
Feels like it has some weird headshot angle potential though, with stairs and CT.
I missed on purpose. Yeah.
No, that's kind of weird or kind of awkward.
It's awkward pretty much no matter what, yeah. But another thing that I think is kind of neat is that you can do this sort of like urban platforming stuff. You shoot out the windows. Oh, I thought there was another window over there. But it's possible to get onto the site. Actually, hold on. If I end round and then I want to check this out. Okay, so yeah, so these are all windows at first.
Mm-hmm.
I blew them up with a grenade when I was playing around with physics earlier. So I would say it's pretty much, I don't know, I think it's pretty solid, honestly. Like, I'm not seeing anything that I have a huge complaint about. There's like some small things like not being able to plant on one of the pipes, which maybe is actually good for balance. I don't know. And then like not being able to squeeze in between here, especially since I get stuck anyway. So it's like, seems like he wanted me to be able to, but he's, you know, forgot to clip something up. I think the bomb site's well designed, despite being seemingly simple on its face. There's a lot of depth because of what surrounds it, which is nice.
I don't know where would safely plant though. Maybe here.
Yeah, you would probably like. I guess you'd have one guy. The question is, do you have much of an angle? Oops. Do you have much of an angle in the vents themselves?
Ooh, I think the vents are also super thin. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I can't really get an angle on anybody through here, so... I mean, I guess if I knew the lineup... Well, let's see how this looks. So I can sort it from this angle. I'm pretty sure I'm super visible, but I can also see the door open. And so if that door was to open, I could then bang to try to shoot somebody. But I would need to know like what speed they were going at, obviously.
Ooh, that's a little bit of an oof here. Gap.
It's epic, dude.
What I want to point out to stream too is when you stand here on site.
Oh, that didn't work.
When you stand here on site, you can see the silhouette of the vents and know where to bang. Pretty clever design in my opinion.
Oh, I see. So he basically has the vents sort of stick out.
Yeah.
But you can't see me as I'm walking, obviously.
Ooh, yeah, I can actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're sticking out sometimes. Wait a second, let me...
I don't see you at all.
Does that happen with me? Wait a second, let me give weapon. Okay.
No. Was it because I had an op?
Maybe.
Maybe you've got cheating graphic settings.
Maybe. That's crazy.
That is a bit odd, though. But yeah, something like that. I think as long as there aren't any bugs, it's probably fine.
Yeah. But that's pretty cool. It like teaches people very quickly where to wallbang the vents from site. So coming back to the point that I wanted to make earlier is about the safe plant is that this window is extremely large.
Yeah.
And covers basically the entire bomb site. Yeah, and that seems very bangable. The wall is super thin too.
So if you didn't know if they were looking, you'd probably want to plant over here, I think. That way, It's not like the default plant, which they might get nade lineups for or something. Also, the more out you plant, the better you can hold from outside over here, which I think is a nice touch. So, like, I could be holding the right side while you're planting safe from the left side, from window. Like, I could be holding right. In that sense.
What works pretty well here, something I pointed out with Lakewood earlier. Was it Lakewood?
That was the map we were just using.
Yeah. The jumping thing works much better here. Partly because they relied on ladders as well.
Yeah.
And the height of boxes is much more convenient to jump onto.
I think it's just in general more consistent. I think they kept themselves at 2, maybe 3 box heights on the entire map. So. But there's a secret room over here, dude.
With ammo. Oh no, that's a workshop box.
Yeah, if only it was ammo. Take my CZ in here. So yeah, but this, like you were saying earlier, a lot of the walls are very thin. So they are super bangable, but I do think that it's kind of cool that you can... So like as a CT, if I want to hold outside, and I get an outside spawn, if that makes any sense, on the right side of the spawn, I can jump out here and try to hold for somebody peeking out here. Or I could just threaten this. Like if I can open the door, right, and then close it before, maybe before they can see me.
Well, I will probably be able to hear it.
Alright, let's test that. We'll be in spawn, and we can go at like 53, 55.
Yeah, I can see you toying around with the door.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious there. And then you have this really long stretch where you could hold this angle to be safe. So I guess I could hold this angle while you're planting, if we go back to my example before, and then this would keep me safe from the peeker over there. So that would probably be like a nice op line of sight. I feel like there's a nice... It's even like based on where you are on the map. If you're on like the... If you're in the outside area, you're probably best off with a long-range weapon. And then if you get into the main area of the bomb site, the middle of the map, if you will, that's where you're shining with mid-range fights, like SMGs a little bit, but mostly rifles. And then if you go super off to the right side, this is where things get super close range. I kind of like that it's almost stratified based on where you are at, if that makes any sense. It's like... Yeah,
I like it.
It's a nice subconscious way of knowing, like, based on where I'm at, this is what weapon is going to do me the best. You know? So... It's a nice touch. That feels like a deliberate thing.
Yeah. I also like the fact that something that was disappointing in the beginning, but now that I took a closer look at the map, it absolutely makes sense, is that CTs can't go into the vents. Meaning that's one route that only Ts have access to. And they have 2 other routes. So they have this 2.5 routes, basically. They can go... Because the vents, they leave you very vulnerable if you jump down.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is that... I mean, in a way...
And you give a sound cue.
What happened?
And you give a sound cue when you, like, shoot out the vents.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could do that and then not technically drop. I'm wondering what's the deal with this? This feels like maybe it's a... I don't know, hold on. So you can't see me right now. But if I jump up on this box, you can. And if I make this parkour jump, you can. So is that like a really defensive position to take?
Guess so, but I don't know why I would take that over the head peak I can control.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can get smoked off, but that would also smoke off this, so...
Yeah.
Or you could get naded in a... Like, just a regular frag grenade, which is something you're safe from the back peak. That feels like an area where they had some idea, but it didn't get executed properly. Like, it didn't... It doesn't go up high enough. Like, maybe if this was a path to the roof for CTs, and then they could, from there, like, try to contest, not vent control, but they could, like, push themselves through there. That might be something, but... They borrowed those from Nuke as well.
Yeah.
Ding!
What I'm a little bit disappointed by is the... these windows don't have the same visual quality as all the other assets in the map, actually.
Which windows?
And these ones, the window frames.
Oh, I see. Like, they're a different thematic as well, yeah. It's more like a steel gray instead of the chrome.
Yeah. Here they have some nice trims and stuff like that. That could have been used for the windows as well.
Yeah, overall, I feel like with the color scheme, it helps to set it apart from Nuke, but it's clearly building on top of that thematic, as opposed to going its own way with it, which, you know, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel every time, but I think if you want to get into the map pool, or if you have aspirations to do something truly great, you probably do have to reinvent the wheel in that way. At least, like, go your own way with a theme. But I do appreciate the visual standard that most of the assets are up to, and I think that was probably not going to happen with one guy at the helm if he didn't borrow from that stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
they did some custom assets, though.
Yeah.
For example, this one up here. Basically the map.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm wondering why it's not in CT spawn, but I guess maybe it originally was and he moved it back for timings or something. But yeah, I like it in general. Those kinds of like little flavor text things or lore elements or whatever. But yeah, no, overall I'm impressed. You can, if those TVs are still alive, you can even jump on over there. I do think maybe the physics objects went a little overboard. I will say that much. Oh, maybe you can still do it anyway. You can test that out. Yeah. Okay, that's good. But like the bottles or whatever, the soda cans that I was playing around with earlier, they are pretty lunatic. I mean, I like it, but it's not sensible whatsoever. Considering I just touch them and they fly out halfway across the map.
Yeah, I like it though. It's definitely a map I like feel like playing.
Yeah.
Or I want to play.
Yeah, I could see this, especially if it gets a little bit of a touch-up or something, like with some small issues fixed. I could definitely see this map being added to like the Face It pool or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty cool stuff. I'll take it, McSad. Nice work. So we'll jump on to the next map, unless you have any final thoughts on this one you wanted to share.
No, I'm good.
All right. This next one is called Resistance by Forecast. And Forecast has a 0 in their name, so they're cool, like me.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, dear. When you spawn in and it's like the freeze time thing, it's pretty hard to get your bearings.
We must move. Let's go, my brothers.
Shadows seem a little bit harsh. Where are we?
This is the pit of despair, my friend. Dante's Inferno. How do you like this?
Map seam. Some more here.
Map seam. More like Epstein. Alright, so this is Resistance by Forecast. We'll check it out. With a map name like Resistance, I assume he's siding with the terrorists here. So we have this trim. This is almost
cool,
like
actually.
a CS source map, in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
Aesthetically is what it reminds me of. Hey, I can see Vertigo.
Nice.
Cube maps, by the way. I am a little lost already. There's a lot of ladders. And a fair bit of platforming. Oh, wait.
It's like Palace and Mirage here. They're building the palace.
Yeah. And then there's Inferno's fountain or something. Yeah, I'm getting very confused by the architecture.
Yeah, the architecture is very weird. I just wanted to say the same thing.
The bomb site is apparently this whole area, even on the low ground.
It's enormous. I don't mind that too much, though.
Yeah, I think it's a nice change. But it's there's probably some exploit spots that could be done.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
Ooh, more letters.
Yeah, dude. He saw a door stuck, and he was like, I'm never gonna have that happen. Only ladders. Where is my KZ map made entirely of ladder brushes, anyway? Oh,
There
dude,
is one,
holy shit.
sure.
When I walked in here and I looked to my right, this scared the shit out of me. This is like an endless storage facility of boxes. This is where Lakewood got its boxes, dude.
How do you get that box in there, even?
Don't ask.
Oh,
man.
wait. It doesn't have collision? Oh, it does.
It has grenade collision, but not bullet collision.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See.
My grenade lineup preview is lying to me. So there's something weird going on there. Yeah, the collision isn't correct, but anyway, this whole room seems weird. Like maybe he wasn't done with it or something.
Yeah, generally the interior parts feel a little bit off.
I do like the
and
outside.
Sometimes bland. Yeah.
Even though it's made out of a lot of the same parts, just because of the lighting and the presentation, there's some neat little gameplay ideas there. Clearly the centerpiece of the map. I'm not sure about the angles. Like, I was sitting back here, and it's hard for me to immediately discern what's a gameplay space and what isn't, but I guess up here, so the CTs would spawn where? Down here? We don't have any CTs on the team, so I couldn't tell for a second, but yeah, so they'll spawn lower, and then one of them will probably just want to stay here, so this is, like, early map control where they don't really want to do anything different, it feels like. So one of them is going to want to play on the site, maybe, a little bit forward, and the other one's going to want to play back in general. Yeah, via a lot of boxes, dude. I guess maybe, depending on where they plant. See, the thing is, because there's such a wide plant area, T's can use a lot of the areas after the fact as post-plant areas, as like holding angles or lying in wait, which is probably pretty bad for anybody who's trying to re-aggress. But I think the other thing about this is that I'm looking at the pathways, and in order to go into it, like, in order to leave the bomb site area, the CTs have to essentially fight through terrorist map control, so there's never a point where they would want to do that. Like, the CTs are always going to be on the bomb site, instead of being on, like, some side passageway for flanks, or instead of worrying about that. Like, they don't have any decisions to make besides where on the bomb site do I sit. And it's a pretty open bomb site, but that's still a pretty boring set of decisions to make every single round you're playing CT. And also, simplifies the strategies available to both teams a lot because you don't really have the same level of decision making, right?
I agree. One thing to note though, looking at the minimap, it seems like timing-wise, the CTs could push beyond the bomb site to get closer to the choke points. But that's about it for a variety of strategies that you can.
Yeah. So if the T's could decide to go like up to Palace area or whatever this is, they get here pretty quick though.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a duel apparently. Like that's a duel, and then what else is a duel? I guess like coming out over here is a duel. You'd want to clear towards this upper area. I don't know. It seems weird. Like I feel like there's an area of the map that we're missing. Or something. Like over here in the actual Mirage Palace area that you were talking about earlier. Well, for one, you just get destroyed by that, but I am wondering what the purpose of it is? To wrap around?
Yeah. I feel the same way. I also just was wondering about the purpose of it. Yeah, I mean, it gives you like a weird angle through. This architecture fucks with me.
It's a map for giants, dude.
Here, that thing has such a weird shape.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's like a alien symbol or something.
Pork chop. Whatever. But
yeah, it could also just
like
be
when you come from here. You come from here, you have like a window to behind the site, but it's not really of much use.
Yeah, I feel like in order to get to the point where you can play a post plant, you've already dealt with one or both of the CTs, so feels odd. I don't know, it's almost like started with the tenets of an aim map in terms of the bomb site. There's so many different angles. There's a lot of mobility that you can do with the jumping around and stuff, which I, to the extent that it's implemented, I actually like that. But I don't see how these pathways add value to the central bomb site area, and I definitely don't see beyond when you're in the middle of a firefight. There's no decisions for really either team to make, it feels like, that are gonna significantly impact the outcome of the round. And as weird as it is to say, CS is more than just firefights. So, like, I don't know. That feels like maybe there was a lot of missed opportunity for that. Like, I'm looking at all these other areas and I'm trying to psychoanalyze. Like, what could possibly be the value of going into this satanic fucking box storage room? And like, okay, we're in here. I guess there's a post plant. We've planted, like, here.
Yeah, it looks like a post plant position.
Yeah, but it can't purely be that, given where it is in the map. Like, I guess it could be a lurk position for CTs or something if they wanted to give up control, but they have no guarantee that the bomb's gonna be over there at all because of how big the bomb site is, so.
And you can't even hold from that corner. Like, my next idea was maybe it's just to pull back if you get overwhelmed, but you can't really hold from this corner because you're open to either this banana kind of thing or the living room situation over there.
What kind of person would live in this room anyway? Why do they have 2 fridges with vertigo on them?
2 stoves with vertigo on them.
Oh shit, the stoves have vertigo on them too. Vertigo, get out of there!
That space down there looks fun.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of stuff down here.
That looks very interesting, but it's non-playable.
Not to put words in the map makers' mouths, but I do sometimes I wonder if, since we see that happen so many times where like the gameplay space is not as interesting as the stuff outside. Like when we were looking at Shalash on the last stream, and it was that like giant wooden map, but there was like a nice outside area. And we were like, what? Why can't we go out there? Like I just imagined like somebody detailing that, like, man, this is the least interesting part of this map. I'm glad it's outside of the map area. You know, like I just imagine them having a completely different take than what we have.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the arguments from members is that they can put much more detail in it because it's not gameplay relevant.
Yeah.
They don't need to do any clipping there. They don't need to make sure that. Ooh, I'm stuck.
Farewell. Wait, how did you even do that?
They don't need to worry about movement and stuff like that, or visibility. I don't know how I did that.
Listen, I know you're skilled at jumping, but this is ridiculous. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
and then you dislodge.
Oh, you need to jump underneath it and then, or duck and then release the. Ooh, there's orange color.
Oh, dev texture. We found some.
Grenade.
Thought you were grenading the dev texture.
Grenade.
But yeah, you were saying about mappers not needing to do as much detail work or whatever. That is a reasonable argument for getting started, but like, I don't know. I feel like if I were to try to make a CSGO map, I would probably start just by... I mean, obviously you want to start with a gray box, but if I have some idea of a shape in mind, or like a set of sight lines, or some sort of cover, I would actually start without any of the clipping or any of the gameplay stuff, and just try to like make it look relatively close to what I think it'll look like in the final cut.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like what's in this area that you were talking about being cool. Like, if I'm gonna I'll lay these props out, I'll do all of this other stuff, and then if I like the way that it looks, I can start doing the more finer tuned details of like fixing clipping and stuff. Which really, I imagine, while it's tedious, it probably doesn't take that long for this number of props as an example. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's... I can see where the mappers are coming from when they say that, but...
Yeah, I feel like if they could achieve that level of detail that's in this little backyard here throughout the entire map, that would be very beneficial to the map. Right now, I feel like that part is much more detailed and much more interesting than a lot of these walls, for example, like, except for the stretched texture that's on it. It's also just a texture.
Yeah, for sure. I also don't know why they were painting this side. I think this is probably for visibility, but it looks really out of place. Just painting my outside wall, dude.
Huge ass paint roll.
Yeah. Dude, they probably forgot where the paint was in all those boxes and gave up. Fuck that. I'm not looking through all those boxes. That really is... I don't know why that got me. But I just came in here and I was like, what the fuck? Anyway. I think that'll probably do it. I don't know if you have any lasting words for this map. For this box of a map.
Yeah, one last thing is that I encountered, like, around the site, I encountered the same problem with Lakewood, where there's a lot of smaller boxes that I need to jump up on.
I was about to bring that up earlier, too, and then I forgot, so I'm glad you remembered. That's another problem here, yeah.
Kind of tedious, but apart from that, I think we've covered everything.
You know what they say? I bound mouse wheel up as jump just for this. Gotta get on the scroll wheel jumping, dude.
No.
Gotta hit your hops, dude.
My smokes.
No, dude. You just hit 4 a million times. That's how you get to your smokes. Alright. Let me jump into the next one here. We might need some of this. We got Recovery, an excellent map name, by Tomo2515. Well, Tomo, let's see how good you are at recovering. We already got color, or we had color before I crashed. Bada bing, bada boom. That's every other map we've crashed so far. That's pretty cool. Nice. It seems to be coming from like if we leave Wingman and then go to another Wingman. Like if we leave or if we go to a map that has the Wingman game mode. That's what it feels like anyway.
Yeah, should we just start it in casual instead?
Some maps don't support it. Like I went from casual in the second map that we just did, Testsite.
See.
That was casual, and then were forced into wingman for that map that we just looked at, Resistance. And so I'm not sure about recovery. I'm waiting for the list to load here. I do find it a little. I know I've harped on this already, but why does it take so long?
Yeah, I like unsubscribed of about 100 maps the other day. It just takes so long to load all of them in this workshop tab. It didn't help much, to be honest. Like, I still have so many.
If you have more than 50, I think it's going to take a while, no matter what. And I don't know any mapper or mapper enthusiast. Oh my crash! What the fuck? That time it crashed on my exec. I don't know what happened there. Is there a way I can't open a lot? Like if I just load it up in. Maybe if I preload it or something before we actually... try to do it. I don't know. I'll wait for you to join this time before execing. I really don't have any idea as to what it could be happening. Anytime we have a crash to desktop with absolutely no context, I get flashback nightmares to my Brood War modding stuff that I do.
Oh, lovely.
Sometimes that happens. We've had to actually add in like debugging into the plugins that we're using because there's nothing by default. So, all right, I guess I'll load it in as wingman instead of casual. See if that helps. But this is what crashed us the first time, so not really thinking it's gonna be likely here.
We must work together.
Okay. No crash yet. I was even able to hit W.
Okay, I'm with you.
Ugh. I'm not able to move or see. It's over.
We must win.
All right.
Let's go, my brother.
Okay, we seem to be doing some stuff. So how do you like lens flares, by the way?
Not very much. But...
That's pretty intense, man. I don't know. Okay, I think they have some beer or something in there. They're teasing us. Frigo.
Is a little bit aggressive here.
Dude, they got some beers. They got Frigo beers and Beans coffee. I don't know what Frigo means, but Beans being your coffee brand. Come on now. Feels a little odd that I'm not able to jump over here. This is like bizarre decision making for the wall, but
you can also not get close to the fence here.
Yeah, he said no. Oh yeah, let me introduce this map again since we crashed a few times. Recovery by Tomo2515. I mean, when you're not getting blasted in the face by that lens flare, it's a nice accent to the sky. I'm not sure if it fits with the color scheme, but it's at least different. You know what? This actually reminds me over here of like some of the later Half-Life 2 levels, which they don't hold up visually, like in terms of the objective quality, but thematically, I think they were a nice change of pace from dealing with vents in the first game all the time. So, like, there's something about this aesthetic in general that I think is nice. It just feels like the caliber of assets is a little low, and I mean, it's not supposed to be what we're looking at anyway. So, I guess it's
fine. But at a distance, I guess.
Yeah, my main issue is like those areas, the two that I sightlined, are like differently lit than everything else, even the trees that are on them, so that makes it look weird. But yeah, aside from that, that's like the main critique, I guess. So we have a windowless area over here. Somebody's dropped their monitor. That's a really old school looking keyboard. Okay, so there's a really tight passageway to the left over there. We can't go into this room. We can go into here or here. This is a pretty long map, if you know what I mean.
What?
No, you can't go that way. So this is the bomb site. This red area, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing on the other side, right?
No.
Oh yeah, Rolt was telling me that the smoke plumes are fucked up on my side, but everybody else sees them fine. And I think because we were looking at Paro, and on my stream it's screwed up. But he sent me a screenshot. And it looks great comparatively. I assume the same thing is happening to me. I don't know if you're looking at the stream or not, but if you compare that to what you're seeing, I wonder if it's.
It looks similar actually.
Oh, okay. So this case it's actually screwed up on the map and not.
Looks similar. A little bit worse on your side, but that might also be the stream itself.
Yeah. So there's this event that you don't even need to crouch in. Thank God somebody finally decided to do this. I was so sad when cat food shrunk the vent on engage, man. The fact that I have to crawl through it.
Is it shrunk now?
Yeah, it's like a hard code gimmick fix to fix the timings, which feels kind of lazy to me, but I don't know what else he wants to do with that map. I think he's moved on. But you have to like crouch through the first half of it, and then you can walk again.
Oh.
It also broke bot support because bots don't know how to crouch, so that's pretty sad. They'll never descend from the sky on that site. Anyway, I'm glad that the vent is full size, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of doors that are not really. I feel like they're not properly marked in subtle or unsubtle ways as unopenable.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way.
So that's like setting me off.
Like this one. This one here is very nicely lit.
Yeah.
It has a different color compared to the wall. I'm like, oh, that's a nice. That can't go in there. No.
I guess you need a boost to get up here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not sure where does CT spawn.
Back here.
You said back here, and I had to like fly halfway across the map. I had no idea. Some more pipes. Yeah, it's another nuke map basically, but it's set mostly indoors, which I think is a nice touch to set it apart. It's just that you have to be better at like if you're not gonna give yourself the easy way out of having an outside to contrast your inside with, you need to be so on point with how you characterize different rooms. Otherwise, I'm just gonna feel like I'm in the same spot. Or you know what I mean? So like, like this outside is way different, obviously. But once you come inside, good luck remembering where you are, really.
Yeah.
So this will take you to that vent.
What it does different to Nuke is that it feels different to Nuke because most of the spaces are very cramped.
Yeah.
In this map. Whereas in Nuke, it's even though it's indoors mostly, it feels spacious.
Right. So I'm trying to piece together the pathways here. And it looks like... Yeah, so that vent isn't open by default, but it's a connector between the two T passageways. Not sure what's gained by that. Can I boost you up there?
Nope.
That's kind of unfortunate. I would like to plant up there. Although if you need a boost to get at it, that would be bullshit. But that's my personal inner evil.
Need to keep your wingman alive.
Yeah. Like you could probably still like look up at it and eat it if I had to guess, but can't test it.
I do like the overall density of detail.
Yeah.
Feels very nice. It doesn't feel overwhelming. Even though, as you said before, that the themes of the different rooms could be worked out a little bit better.
There are still some areas that are distinct, like obviously the smoke area, where there's some sort of steam venting out.
Yeah.
That's obviously like a nice touch. There's this weird thing that looks fucked up because of aliasing, I think, but that like glass window up top is kind of cool as well. And it's like noticeable enough that when you're looking at it, you know where you're at, roughly speaking. I don't know.
Stuff down there looks really cool too.
I feel like for sure you need the doors and like the areas that are just here for window dressing and visual storytelling and stuff. You need to mark those as inaccessible in some way.
Yeah.
Like even just taking the exit sign that was over there, that's green, and setting it to red or something would probably be enough. There's like an exit sign on the door, on the double door that I think you initially tried to access. Yeah. So it's even green, which is like game logic for access granted. All right, so the
clipping is a little bit aggressive.
What did you say?
The clipping is a little bit aggressive, not only on T-spawn, but also here. Like, I can't get into the corner.
Yeah, I thought I would be able to jump up here, but... I feel like the way that this map is, you almost want the developer to lean into having a bunch of things that you can jump on and different angles you can take. Also, there's a nice 3-box jump that you have to make over there. Everybody hates those. But obviously you can just go up the ramp, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. I'm wondering what the wisdom is of having this crate here, though. There's this crate here that I guess you can use to crouch jump around, but... I guess it's whatever. Anyway, I forget what I was about to say, or what I was in the middle of saying.
I also don't know.
I think I was... Well, I know I wanted to make some points about the CT's positioning, but I don't think that's what I was about to say. I think... Yeah, my main issue... Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So, this map has so many different angles that you can take, and different, like, boxes that you'd think you'd be able to boost onto or jump onto or something. And then most of the time you can't. Like, even over here. And that's, like... That's almost part of the theme of the map, you know what I mean? Like, you don't... You should just sort of lean into that and embrace it, not try to, like, knock it or ignore it or whatever, you know? That's what that's just my gut feeling. I'm sure there's, like, balance concerns and all sorts of other stuff, but... Trading spaces.
After user.
Yeah. So... I don't know. I feel like that's part of what this map's identity could be, is that there are so many different things that you've got to clear, and then you could, like, maybe simplify the level geometry, but have each area of the level be that much more nuanced in how you can use it. Like, it's a tool with many uses, instead of being many tools with only one use. That's sort of how I'm seeing that. Like, that's how this map could have a lot of, like, a set of tools that's smaller than the current number of tools, but each one of those can be used in different ways. And that could add a bit more nuance and a bit more depth. And then you can reduce the overall number of tools. So the overall number of maybe passageways, certainly cover or like individual boxes or whatever. But as a result of opening up more freedom to use the ones that you keep in different ways, I think that would help to simplify the map in a way that allows players to grasp it a little bit easier so that we're not getting lost in the layout and stuff. But also would actually improve the amount of, like, strategic diversity there is or whatever. Because, like, there's ways to make it so that it's not as frustrating when you have to clear, like, 60 different angles to get into the bomb site or whatever. So, like, there's ways to make it so that that doesn't happen, but you still have a bunch of different things that you can do as a player to leverage the tools in different ways.
I tried to, like, draw a mental map of the level and failed because all of the areas look so samey.
Yeah.
And are also have the same shape, basically. It's just corridors.
Yeah.
And
I like that other side that we just walked through, that yellow area with the red light.
Yeah, that could be expanded.
Yeah.
Like, this could be part of this room.
Yeah, this could lead out to a whole area with a catwalk and, you know, like something that's very different than...
Yeah.
Oh, even... Here's what you were saying earlier. Like, this looks so much more, like, different, you know? Color scheme-wise.
I want to play in this one.
Yeah. Prop-wise. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I tried to, like, paint a mental map. Failed, so I took a look at the minimap. And I noticed that you actually only fight around the bomb site.
Yeah.
And I don't know if all of the complexity on the CT side is really necessary then. Especially in this area where I'm right now. If you look at the minimap.
Yeah, so like from here down.
It doesn't need to be so complex.
Like from here to CT spawn, it could be simplified.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of wingman maps that spawn the CTs much closer to the bomb site. Similar, sort of like Overpass A, where it's like you're literally spotting on the bomb site. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but I think that might be a stronger starting position. Like the margin for error is a little bit smaller if you do start out with that, because then you can design engagements leading into the bomb site that CTs can sort of fight over and vie for map control over, and then they can fall back to the bomb site if they need to. So yeah, I can sort of see where you're coming at, where the T-side complexity also feels a little overwhelming just by itself. If you then also have to factor in all the different places a CT might be before they even get on the bomb site, and then additionally all the different places that they could be on the bomb site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It does feel a little bit overloaded. But I think that it's obvious that effort was put into it. It just feels like maybe it was in service.
Definitely. I just saw another great scene that I wanted to point out. This one here looks really cool.
Oh yeah, that is banging.
Look up.
That's like a Mirror's Edge style thing or something.
Yeah.
Like I imagine like platforming through it or whatever.
The prop work is really well done, actually.
Yeah, if you stop to like look at some of the things that are going on, there's some areas where it's a bit off. Like, well, maybe that is actually what it looks like when the pipe goes into the cement or whatever. But like, there's some areas where it seems a bit weird. But for the most part, it's like very. It's not just a bunch of stuff copied and pasted, which might not even be noticeable. But when you do look at it, you notice that it's not like that. Like, there's all sorts of crazy shit that's going on that, like, the average fan who plays maps would probably be like, oh, yeah, this is like a Valve map in that way, you know, where there's all sorts of, like, props and stuff. It's just that, well, here's like, the unenlightened take on this map, is that this would be a cool single-player map. Like, that's what I think people would think of.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, because a lot of people conceptualize single player as not being competitive, and like if you're just, you know, if it's just going to be more about visual detail and it's not going to be competitive in the same way as like readability is a prime factor, and like people would look at this and think, oh yeah, great single player art design or something like that. But since we're talking competitive stuff, and since I personally believe that even single player stuff could be competitive in terms of how it's designed, I think there's things that you can do to this map to improve it. But it's also a really like there's just so many layers to it in terms of what we see, that you have to wonder what could have been if more of that was leaned into. Like if they had parts of the map that were meant to be a bit more like some of the areas that like we see just flashes of, like what you were talking about, like you were just shooting up at this catwalk and stuff, like well, I'm not suggesting necessarily that they overhaul the map and add another level to it so that there's the access to the catwalk. It's just cool. Like this observation window over here is pretty cool too. So,
I love
and like
that.
this upper area over here. So like there's all sorts of cool stuff that you could lean into in terms of, at the very least, art characteristics, like thematics, if not actual level geometry.
Down here in the main room, they also added, like, they didn't only work with the geometry or the architecture of like the facility itself, but also added some smaller scenes with this construction stuff. You wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah,
but it's so subtle, and really, like, the map encourages you to look up and look down a little bit. And as you said, it would be a cool single player map, maybe even co-op. Like, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see playing a co-op mission in that with a friend of mine. That's pretty cool. The space feels real.
Right. And it feels like, I feel like there's a way to marry that with competitive map design tenets. So you don't have to make it feel not real. You can fix some issues with readability, with sort of like at a glance knowing where you're at, and with what do you call it? With like whatever the competitive concerns would be, but you can do so in a way that doesn't invalidate the way that the map is constructed, and in fact actually enhances the real life thematics, like having areas be distinct. I mean, maybe some people would argue that it's actually not realistic for areas to be distinct, because like a lot of them are designed to be the same way. But that's where you get into that like hyper real or more real than real or whatever you want to call it, like sort of design philosophy, where you're showing off like your things that are designed to be believable, even if they aren't like by definition realistic. As long as it feels believable, and it currently does, I think it can be done. So I think the author of this map, what's his name again? Hold on. Tomo 2515. Yeah, that's all that's credited on the Steam page. I'll open it up again to be sure.
Cool.
But yep, it looks like yeah, it's just one person on the page and one person. They didn't put a credits list or anything, so
impressive stuff actually.
Yeah.
Impressive stuff. Takes a lot of time to construct all of this.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of is when I was interviewing the makers of Anubis, and Yakuza was talking about his map Royal and how he basically just made a map that where he thought it would be cool to play CS in, and like that's in a way I feel like that's what this author did. Like there's a lot of effort that went into this, but it feels like he was really excited to play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like he was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun to look at, fun to play in, like a cool environment, a cool battleground. And I feel like that translates into the work. So even though like particle effects could be fixed in this area, I don't even know what's causing this issue. Even though there's some issues with readability or at a glance knowing where you're at and all this other stuff that we've mentioned, it's very clearly like a cut above a lot of the other maps in terms of how the theme is put together, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, for a small map like that, it is very interesting to like run around and explore.
Yeah.
Because there are so many cool scenes that they put into the map.
I have no. Admittedly, I don't think we've talked too much about how it's gonna play. Like, I have no fucking idea how it'll play. I do feel like it still needs some attention in that detail or in that regard, but.
One thought that I had in terms of gameplay was. I briefly mentioned it already, that you basically play around the bomb site, and both teams kind of clash head-to-head. I wish there was a way for Ts to compromise the CT territory more. Over here would be a good possibility, for example, if this drop didn't lead to the bomb site, but rather into this corridor. And then you could loop around all the way and like backstab the CTs. They're not paying attention.
It's such a different map to say this about, but it's kind of similar to Resistance, the map we just did, where in order for one team to get past the other, they have to go through the bomb site. It feels like, right? Like, I'm not sure if I don't think there's any avenues the Ts could take that don't take them through the bomb site in order for them to flank on the CTs.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah, So yeah, compromising the CT's positioning is a big deal in terms of a threat that you can do, like a credible threat you can make on the CTs. So if they have to worry about that because they've lost map control or position, I don't know. I also feel like maybe this map, even though a lot of the areas are cramped, the scale of it might not lend well to 2v2 only because of the number of angles. Maybe that would be resolved if there was a bit of complexity reduction or whatever. Or a consolidation, I should say, because like you're reducing the overall number of angles or number of positions to worry about, but you're adding value to those individual things. So it's almost like basically going big or going home. Like if it doesn't really justify its position in the map or its inclusion in the map, then it gets cut or it gets redrafted until it does justify that, which is basically what you always want to do with any element. I don't know if you've thought much about this, but I feel like if you're gonna have a map. Or really, if you're gonna have anything like a musical track or a gun sound, like if it's not justifying its inclusion, like if it doesn't stand on its own merits basically and help support everything else, then if it as an element within a larger composition, it needs to be redrafted or at least revisited and like thought of again. So like I try to use that lens to look at pretty much any specific element, like does this angle work in this map, and like how does it benefit everything else. So I feel like taking a longer look, and again, maybe this is because of the contest, like maybe this person will revisit this or whatever, but taking a longer look at the individual angles and stuff would probably help with that, because you're really essentially like forcing yourself to fully essentially forcing a single element to fully justify its own positioning within the space. Kind of like an esoteric concept as opposed to being able to just say, hey, do this. But
I mean, there are some cool fights actually happening. Like here, you basically fight across the map. The way the angles are set up.
yeah.
Instead of, if I go right, I will meet the CT that also goes right, or like goes left on their side. But
yeah,
you know
so
what I mean?
if these are the CT positions, I don't actually have a great line of sight onto anything, but I can take shots at somebody who's coming out from the same angle you were watching, from the sort of that green exit door that we thought was gameplay space. But if we wanted to see mid, we have to go further. We essentially have to be on the bomb site to see mid, it feels like. The other thing, I guess... no, yeah, the bomb site itself, like this whole structure is blocking the viewpoint from over here.
Yeah.
So I have to look at that. I have to like hold a passive angle, basically, from the left side. I don't actually know what would be the line of sight here. Yeah, I don't think there is a line of sight for this position, actually.
Yeah.
I have to go further out, and even then, like, there's actually I don't think there's anything I can do from this position. I can shatter that glass, but it's not really like blocking anything.
Which is weird, coming back to the point I raised earlier with the complexity in this area.
Yeah.
Given that you don't really have options to play the bomb site from there, why is there so much complexity? I feel like that could be simplified a lot. And that position that I'm in right now, I feel like is one of the most crucial for CTs, because you can see the exit room area, you can see the end of the ramp, and I would also see anything crossing from the drop.
Yeah.
So I can lock down the entire site from here, basically, or at least give info.
Yeah, and I can't even trade on you from this position if you die, if you go down, like unless they rush you or unless they cross over here, I'm not able to actually, you know, have an impact on the map. I would say those are probably the biggest issues for CTs on this map, is like disproportionate value for one position, and even then it's like ultimately, despite all the complexity of the CT setup, they can really, they must go to that site, that place that you were just at. And then the other guy, I guess, has to play on the site itself. But even then, if you play on the site, you only have access to the vent and the T approach down mid. So you would have to play further up, I guess, and try to, like... Oh, no, you can't. This is like a dead angle, like a dead man's angle. So maybe you actually have to, like, push out to the red room over here. The red ramp, or red stairs. As a CT. Like, you might have to hide in lockers, or... I don't know. It's so weird. I mean, it feels like it's too binary. Like, you always want to go one way, and then the other guy doesn't really have anything to do. Like, basically,
you put it pretty well, saying that there's like a disproportion between the two CT sites in terms of importance for the CTs.
As far as the T's go, it almost feels like they're walking through all of the areas on their side without much... Like, it's almost like they're walking through this as a timing. Like, this is a measure to reduce their... or to increase the speed before... or increase the time before they actually get to the bomb site, as opposed to them actually taking control. I think all the best maps, even if it feels... or even if it actually was a decision made to reduce the timings or change the timings in some way, it still feels like they're taking valuable map control, and they still actually are taking valuable map control because of lurk options and because of flanking and all this other stuff that we just don't have access to in this map on either team, really.
Yeah. But then again, I like it from the T's perspective. I like that it has some kind of storytelling element to it. Like, you invade this facility from this angle here, which kind of goes hand in hand with all of the other small storytelling details that they put into this map.
It's definitely an impressive map, especially for one guy. I got a hats off to that, but yeah, I think for gameplay-wise, leaves a bit more to be desired than maybe we initially thought. Much like the other map, Resistance, when you plant the bomb, what do you do? Even if you get the bomb planted, feels like by the time you're able to safely plant, you've probably won the round because you've probably headshot the other guys. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine a world where they come in and they actually are able to stop you from planting or retake afterwards. It just feels like the angles themselves need to be recalculated. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing where this one goes, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Sup, Rolt? Welcome. Alright, so we have taken a look at recovery. That's definitely going on my watch list for seeing if it gets updated, though. It's pretty impressive stuff. Up next we have Fastline by Stan. Hopefully this does not crash my CS. Uh-oh.
We must win.
Here's a map. This almost has like a visual tone similar to Sunburn, but without the same... Oh, maybe that's just because of the sun and the colors.
Ooh, fine.
Alright.
I'm getting some Team Fortress vibes.
Yeah.
Right away.
I accidentally had that on.
Ooh.
I accidentally pressed the button. Yeah, I'm not seeing a way that... Like, this is almost the initial thing you'd want to change.
Yeah.
Can I jump up here, please? But...
Very simplistic crate design.
Doesn't seem boostable. Honestly, there's a lot of negative space in the middle, too, and I wonder if maybe that's
oh, yeah.
gonna put people off, but it's...
Oh, my.
A thick barrel. Hey, it leaks water when you stab it. Who put these here?
How?
Who did this?
Okay, and that's the other route that these can come from. And they can basically double peek. Upper and lower at the same time. That's a barrel size.
No, go big or go home, I guess. So, CT's spawn pretty close to the bomb site. Can't jump on
I hate it.
Yeah. Why can't I jump on that? That would actually be a pretty cool angle, I feel like.
The bomb site kind of reminds me of CPL Fire. I don't know if you're familiar with that map.
A little bit. It was a while ago.
1.6.
But I know what you're talking about. Hey, no entry. Hey, put some of these signs on that other map, dude. I know it seems kind of lame, but... Oh, there's another layer to this. Wow, nice glass, dude. So you can throw stuff through there.
That's very Team Fortressy.
Still no dead guards? These guys are slacking, dude. How else would we get in here besides shooting a security guard?
So this route here feels kind of boring. I don't need to maneuver a whole lot. And then I have this weird drop into something that feels like Pop Dog. Doesn't feel very satisfying to go that way.
No, I agree. I also don't see how you make it out of there without some utility. Which is probably fine, but...
Here again, I feel like we have a similar problem to... what was the map called? Porto?
The train one?
Yeah, exactly. Where one of the best strategies for CTs is to stay in spawn. And just wait.
Yeah.
Because it's way too wide to smoke off with just one smoke, for example. They can always put pressure from here, even on a longer range. If they wanted to. They have different covers to fall back on. So it doesn't feel very engaging for CTs. Yeah, that blocks off the orange box at least. Yeah, okay, then I adjust my angle to this one. And that's a super tough one too.
So that's our exec.
Can you plant the bomb then? Oh, there's a safe.
I feel like that's not a real exec though, because I threw them both from the same position. So let me find another angle.
And if you do that, you... I don't know. I'm not saying that CT is overpowered.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. It doesn't fix the problem, for sure.
The thing is, it's just not engaging for CTs to run out of there. CTs defend from side, they got 3 totally different to defend. Yeah. They can reduce it drastically by staying back.
Yeah, I can just, like, in theory, I can find this angle, which will let me take out anybody dropping, and
I'll just stay here with you.
Yeah.
If someone comes, we can boost up here. I think it's cool.
You can't get on there. I mean, I can maybe... No, I can't even shoot people. But yeah, there's a wall here.
Okay.
Which is pretty annoying. Honestly, I feel like because of the timings, we would... Like, CTs might even want to hold it from this angle too, though. Like...
Yeah, they could. Totally.
That one went too far and the first one went too shallow, but there's probably some smoke that smokes this off, and then you can start isolating angles. And then you force them to go through drop, basically. Because you've cut off the left side and right side rotations from... Like, you've cut off the interior rotation and the middle rotation, if you do that. I feel like that's probably a... If you have good aggressive communication or whatever, like aggressive play, there's probably like... No, that's not it, but... There's probably... Actually, I don't even know how high the skyboxes are. Oh, pretty high, I think. Okay. In that case, there's probably a really easy smoke that you can line up. Or, I don't know if it's easy, but there's probably one that you can find.
Yeah. I'm with Rolled on this one. That I'm not sure if you can pull that off timing wise. Looking at the minimap.
Well, yeah, it's probably not going to bloom before the CTs or before the Ts get there. But if there's only one of them, and you smoke that off, at the same time, you don't even have to throw it from that angle. Like you can throw it. You can throw it more shallow or something. Like you can throw it. Basically, you can throw it closer so that as long as it's blocking off the. Yeah, let's try that one. Now you have to be hugging this right side to even have visibility. And it's not like we're using it to cross ourselves. We're just trying to stop them from crossing. And if we do that, if say one of them throws the smoke, the other one like flashes, so they can the CT can go in there deep, right? So the CT throws the first CT in, throws the smoke. He gets flashed in afterwards, and then he's in a really strong position where he can spot anybody crossing. And he can like play pretty safe because the only other entrance to the bomb site that isn't related to a cross is this drop, which the guy who flashed him in can then get into a pretty good position to hold from sight. So I feel like one of the main limitations of the CTs is supposed to be that they can't push up onto the site itself and take angles against drop that aren't that are like super favorable, like what I'm doing. Like, so this angle right here behind the red crate is like really, really good for a CT. Basically anywhere on the site is really, really good for the CT. And they're not supposed to be able to do that because they can get flanked from this position, from like the ladder position or the mid, like either one of the mids, whether it's elevated or not.
Yeah.
And you can completely eliminate that just by doing that simple smoke. And then you get ladder control if you want. Obviously, you could probably just get that off of the flash. Honestly, I'm not even really sure that you need the smoke. That smoke is not really what I was trying to throw anyway, but there's ways to. Maybe it's not a run throw. Hold on. I don't remember what the lineup was, but you can probably drop a smoke in this area and then just hold this passively, and your other guy's got like a dominant. What'd you say?
We can test the timing and see if I can run past it.
Okay. So we'll do it 49-15. Yeah, actually you get here a lot faster than I thought. Yeah, so maybe that was accounted for then. I still hear you if you're full running, so yeah. It still gives me valid info. And if I don't hear anybody full running, I can throw the smoke, because then if they're like shift walking or something, I know that they're not going to be there in time, and I can take that forward position. I think anyway, even if you don't hear any sound cues, you want to get flashed in at the very least, and then try to take a peek there, because there's nothing stopping you. Like, they can't flank you in time. So if CT1 is further up and CT2 flashes them in, even like this. And I'm over here, full running. Yeah, I have pretty much no time to react to that flashbang. So I don't know what a good lineup would be to make it even better, but you could molly the choke point for sure, but it feels like, especially if they can just smoke it off and then take ladder off of the flash, it probably won't matter. Unless you just start pre-firing where the ladder is, but if you're full flashed, I don't think that's happening. It does feel like it's a little too easy for Ts or for CTs to like eliminate entire positions, basically. Because like that other rotation on the outside where the psycho barrels are is also like, it's a super long one for Ts.
Yep.
And CTs can get in a position to just ignore it.
Yeah, it feels very like all of the oh my.
Yeah, you like that one? I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but apparently you can throw a flashbang.
It feels like all of the paths for T's are very binary. Either there is someone or there is none. But you don't have the possibility to like poke in one path and then fall back and take another one, because rotation times are so long for T's.
Good luck ever finding a lineup for going out that window.
You need to duck.
Quack. Oh.
Oh.
What is the point of those other ones? I'm so confused.
Visual spice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, seems like a pretty simple map, I guess. I'm not really a fan of the long winding corridor things around the negative space. I think negative space is a valuable tool, but I don't think it's meant to be used like this.
Yeah, generally I feel like the map is a little bit too simple. As teaser don't really have much choices, except for the very initial one.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of locked in. I'm always locked in when I decide on a path to go.
Yeah, I think any map where the CTs have nothing to push for, or very little to push for, when it's like always an inferior strategy, is not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's not a good dynamic. Like, even when I was trying to make an aggressive strategy work, like, if it does work, it actually takes more away from CT, or from Ts than is helpful, or than is healthy, I think. But the fact that I think it's just because neither team really has a good amount of strats, right?
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like still one of the best strategies for CTs is to stay back. Of course, depending on the playstyle, but generally, that's a very safe option. And it's just CTs standing there for a couple of seconds or maybe even a minute before T's play their execute. Not very engaging.
I'll take this position.
Sounds fair.
You can get boosted up here.
I'll maul you from up here.
Will you? I'm not sure if that will actually work on the... Here, get up there. I know you might want a god mode for this anyway.
Nice and warm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like...
Drop down.
That's probably just not intentional, though. Judging by all the other aggressive clipping
Yeah,
we've seen in this map. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really that much to say on this, I guess, but...
I'm also through with my points, I guess.
I feel like the art style wasn't fully settled on either, but it's probably just a disparity between like the ground texture and the colorful nature of the props.
Yeah, the props are very, very simple. It just
very
seems to have
vibrant
one
as
color.
well. Yeah. But everything else about the map feels pretty subdued by comparison. So, oh, I guess you have these puzzle piece walls or whatever is going on over here, but that's about it. I don't know. I kind of like that some of the ideas here, but it does feel like maybe an unfinished map or something where the best was yet to come with it or something. I don't know. I guess ladder control is actually really important because there's so many different lineups that you can do for grenades and stuff using that, and you can do so safely without actually needing to expose yourself. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, Rolled, I agree that CT pushes should be risk rewards, but the problem is, like, either it will work, like, basically it's feast or famine in this case. Either it will work to the point where you completely make the game almost unwinnable for Ts, or it's not going to work out, at which point you just fall back and do what you were doing before, which was pretty boring stuff. Or maybe you just get killed, I guess, but one or the other. Alright. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. We have...
I'll quickly grab some water. I'll be right back.
Sure. I'll load up the next map in the list. So how you doing anyway, Rolt? People seem to really enjoy the Anubis episode. Thanks again for coming on for that. Oh, shit.
I'm back.
What's up?
Oop, team. Let's do a door.
Listen, I'm going to introduce you to something that you might not know about this map. This map is Hanok by Teddy. That's Teddy with a 3 and not an E. First thing I'll say initially is I'm rather overwhelmed by the density of detail. Clearly a lot of effort went into placing stuff and getting stuff set up, but a lot of it is ambitious in terms of how much details there are, how many details there are.
Considering the amount of details, frame rate is pretty good, actually. Terrible. We had worse today.
Yeah, that's true. Like on Lakewood T-Start, but... So, you have to break these and accidentally knife your teammate to get out here.
Oh.
Yeah, come here. Check this out. Stare at this for a while. Tell me if you notice anything strange.
The leaves? What do you mean?
It was actually happening more when we were at the beginning of the round. The animation has is missing curves towards certain points, I think.
Oh,
so you see how it's just like all going to one side and then like it's animating globally as like one prop or whatever instead of like individual trees, which makes it look really weird. Yeah, I have to agree with Rolt's take here in that there's a lot going on, dude. Hey, at least this must be where Hansel and Gretel are from or something, because they got cinnamon roll walls over here. No, get hungry.
Yeah, the textures are pretty noisy actually. In a lot of places.
Got the classic water reflection bug, which probably only happens to me for some reason, but
so it's water.
I'm seeing a reflection of the skybox in the water everywhere I look. As long as there's water there.
It looks good to me.
I was hoping it would go in like Rift. I was mistaken. Dragon table. Okay. So what are the actual angles here? Hold on. So T's can spawn along this whole elbow. And then they can either jump up here. I'm wondering what if a T has to make this jump. Well, I guess they don't really, they only have to make one jump, but that initially puts me off a bit. Like if you spawn in that side like I did when I spawned on this spot, it feels a bit odd. And then you can stand on this to get up here. I wonder what the purpose of this outside wrap is, where this, like the double stairs or whatever, to go all the way around. I was gonna say it's for lurks silently, but you can drop silently.
And you can still see the head. Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Well, the bomb site is this little ringed area, and it's also CT spawn is all over here. Wee woo, wee woo. It's active, dude. I forgot to turn the lights off.
In this area, it feels like the mapper didn't quite finish.
Oh yeah, with like the same texture tiles over it, a couple of places, yeah. Oh, you can also see the sky, the 2D skybox super clearly over here. Like there's no 3D prop or anything.
Oh
yeah. Is that the Dust 2 skybox? No, maybe not. I don't actually know what skybox that is.
It's a custom one.
Oh, cool. Neat.
It's actually 2D planes arranged around the map in the 3D skybox.
Is that not? That's sounds like it's not the normal way that it's done.
I did it too in Guard, and it's also, I think Overpass uses the same thing. Nuke to some extent with some of the foliage in the background. It's basically a 2D plane with a picture on it, and that's slapped into the 3D skybox and arranged to give the impression of depth without really adding depth.
It's kind of weird that he marks this inner circle with orange paint, spray paint, but you can also plant on here, so.
It's a little bit confusing.
Yeah. But I think it's fine overall. I actually like the bomb site. Although, that's more so about like the angles that you can take around it. But this also feels to me like it's... I'm not sure what kind of map controls CTs would want to take. There's this nice little flanking path that allows them to go all the way to T-spawn. But I wouldn't want to push that unless I had knowledge of where both of the CT or both of the T's were. Like if I'm on CT side and I feel like my rotation would consist of me walking over here and holding, you know,
Yep.
or holding over here. This is like a super early contact point. Like I'm gonna jump up on the dumpster and then I can see you. So
it's not overpowered though for CTs because I need to worry about a lot of angles here.
True.
And the cover that I'm using is just a fairly thin wooden wall.
Yeah, the main issue though that I have is I can't, if I'm spawning on the right side and I don't want to get hit by somebody while crossing or don't want to give information away, I can't do that. Like I have to go all the way around basically.
Yeah.
Which is probably, maybe that's just the decision I make, but I mean, as far as like wingman maps being clutch simulators like you described them a while ago, one of the other streams, this one definitely has that sort of setup, I feel like. My dog didn't like me breaking all the windows. It looks like maybe there's actually a gameplay purpose that you could do that with.
Yeah, you can throw stuff through there, I guess.
It's also an angle, I think, but very specific.
Oh. Maybe for wall banging, if you like for an after plant here, fall back.
That would be pretty
that thing is a little bit annoying here.
Pretty risky. Yeah, this is like maybe it should just be one window if you even should be forced to break a window to get in.
Everything feels tiny though. I feel like shotgun is king in this map.
Yeah, that could be a real thing for sure.
And even though it is very noisy, I think it's also beautiful.
Yeah,
in many areas.
I mean, it's got a lot of detail, but
I think the color scheme is pretty good.
My main issue is that there's so many different colors in just like one screen, so it's hard to actually know what the scheme is meant to be. But that could probably be attenuated with lower detail on the individual textures. Because there's a lot of detail put into these textures in areas where you don't really need that detail.
Yeah.
And then there's also like changes in color where, like this door over here.
That looks weird.
Like, maybe it's nice and sensible, but it's not gameplay space, so it doesn't need to be that vibrant, you know?
Do you know what that asset is? Here?
No.
This one?
Oh. What the hell? No. What is that?
That's the very old Inferno fountain from Source.
Wow.
Scaled all the way down. Yeah, if you clip into the asset a little bit, you can see the base of the fountain.
Wow. That's a callback. Little Easter egg. Like over here, they use the similar colors, but they're all like muted because of the shadows, which I think is a nice touch for making it clear what the gameplay space is. But right now, it's really hard for me to focus on anything. I think I might get a headache playing this map and trying to keep track of all of the different angles. You know what I mean?
Generally, what you said earlier, I agree that it feels very fast-paced. The engagements seem to happen very quickly.
Yeah, the game will be over quick. That's for sure on this map.
Yeah, and there's again no real possibility for for T's to compromise CT territory.
They essentially have to do it by going through that pathway that you just went through.
Yeah.
I found another angle for that weird thing. I don't think it. Oh, actually, it wouldn't work because the T's are only elevated. Yeah, I can't even see. I can sort of see you because there's a little spot. That's all I see. I see you from that spot. Tiny little area. It's pretty goofy. CTs take the early choke point. It's like mid-range. You mean this area with the windows that we broke early? Yeah, I guess this is, but... Excuse me. Feels really, thanks. Feels really... Like you're here for like all of 2 seconds. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I can take this engagement as CT actually.
No, we can.
Because if the engagement isn't over within the first few shots, I'm outflanked very quickly. Because of this sideline here.
Yeah, so if one of them goes that way and the other one goes... Basically, the two stairs in T, if they both go that way, then because the dumpster jump gives away your position. So if you have one T go up here and one T go that way, then you have like taking this fight over here. I mean, you'd obviously want to peek it a little bit differently. You want to do this. You want to do something like that, and then yeah, while your buddy
T's
pressures.
also don't have a whole lot of options actually. There's not much to it.
Yeah, there's really like there's no opportunity to slow things down, which I mean it's Wingman map, so maybe that's fine, but there's also very little opportunity for utility. I feel like maybe you smoke the window. Oh shit! I didn't even realize how crazy that one was. So not only do you have to check the window as a CT, but you also have to check this sightline that you were talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought you when you were painting the rays earlier, that was you were talking about the window. But yeah, just because of this, like as a CT, basically one of us would have to watch this angle, and then the other one would have to cross and watch this. But I think if they hold too far back to get like a nice... Like, you don't want to peek so close to the angle, obviously. Like, Dust2's taught us all that. You don't want to be so close to the edge. But if you go too far back, you get shot by somebody over here, so... I guess with that in mind, though, that does lock down both of the approaches. Like, one of the things I only now realized is that T's only have 2 angles to even come onto the bomb site.
Exactly.
So that is actually really crazy, yeah. It felt like there was more just because there's so much going on with the map, but... I don't know.
I don't know. I can see the map go both ways. Either it's super fun because it's so quick and feels very fresh in that term, or in that regard. And on the other hand, it could also be very frustrating because you have so little options, so little possibilities for creativity, really.
Yeah.
You're kind of locked into the few tools that were given to you.
Yeah, this is like you only want to have so many options or whatever. Like, you only want to have so many rounds, like max round 8 or something, or whatever it is, like, but first to 8, like in casual. I think that's what Wingman is by default anyway, but...
Yeah.
So yeah. Not sure about that one. Well, I think we've pretty much said our piece on this one. I think that it's very clear a lot of effort was put into, like, small details. Yeah. Like, if we come over here into the bomb site, there's this little tree branch sticking through the the fence post or whatever.
Cool.
Kind of reminds me of and I always get these confused. One of them is Gongji, which is the city one. That's not what I'm thinking of. But there's another exotic places map that was
Jingshin?
Yeah, Jingshin. Yeah, okay. I think yeah, that's the one. And that it reminds me of like the bomb site, the A bomb site I think it is on that map. It's pretty neat in that regard. So I kind of like that aesthetic. It just feels like it's so embroidered, it's so gaudy. There's so many different things happening that, like, while it's impressive to see it in source, it's like, what do I look at? I don't know. And that's like a situation where it's almost like the advice is to remove it or reduce detail, which is heartbreaking for the artist. So
yeah,
I don't know. But that being said, I mean, maybe they can reuse those assets in the future for other maps and stuff. So, yeah, I think that'll do it. What do you say we go into our next map?
Sounds good. Give your eyes some rest.
Sounds guard, homie.
Ooh. So I'll tone it down a little bit for this one. I'll let you do the talking.
All right, boys, we got this map. I don't know. I've never even heard of this map or the guy who made this map. I don't know what this map is going to be. It's pretty, I don't know, man. Never heard of any of this. What's a guard, anyway? And who's a poLemin? Yeah, this is guard by poLemin. What did this place in the contest? 4th or 5th or something like that?
4th. 4th?
Nice. There you go. So, esteemed. Oh, shit. Physics objects. It's just a bottle, though. Don't worry. All right. So, guard is it must be Einstein who made this. Yeah, there you go. Guard is a map that I've actually played a bit on. I think this was the first map that I checked out of the contest. Of the Source Engine Discord mapping contest. And
feel humbled.
Yeah, so this was like, I was like, oh, poLemin made a map. Hell yeah, I gotta check that out. So, we jump up from T-spawn. One of the first things that I want to say is, like, given that I was really only looking at, like, essentially I was like, the cream was rising to the top, you know what I mean? Like, there's that analogy in English where we see the sort of the best of the bunch just naturally get elevated to the top of the consciousness, to the top of the discussion. And that's basically, I think, what happened here, where I came in and I was like, oh, this is a well-detailed map. It's subdued in the visuals. It's not like going all out, and certainly not like that last map that we were just looking at, but just in general, like some of the other maps we've seen that have had a lot of details. I would even put the second nuke-like map, Recovery. I'd even put that in that category where there's a lot of visuals going on. I feel like what you did with this map's visuals is you didn't really try to blow our socks off and redefine what was possible within Source visually. You were just like, in a way, even though there's obviously a lot of effort that went into the individual assets and all that other stuff, in a way it felt like you were putting together a map that was like functional. That the visuals were in service to the gameplay, as opposed to some maps where we've seen maybe a focus is on visuals more so than gameplay. I don't know if you can speak to that.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm more of a level designer of trade than an artist, so my skills are also fairly limited. So I had to work with something that I'm comfortable working with and actually finishing something for the contest. And
can you talk us about this centerpiece here in the T-spawn? What's in honor of Pavel? I don't know how to say that last name.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it either, but Pavel is the like Czech version of my first name, Paul.
Oh, I see.
And Kure means chicken. So Paul Chicken then, huh?
So this wasn't like an actual realistic site. This is just you.
No.
Okay. And of course, he's holding something that could be misconstrued as a pole, so we know what's going on here.
Well, that's just a cobblestone statue, actually.
Yeah, cool. So, if we walk through towards the bomb site, one of the things that I'm very famous for anytime I play this map is saying, I know a smoke, and then flubbing it horribly. But hey, that time it worked out. So this line of sight will take you towards CT spawn, where the graffiti is. Or in that general area. And some op duels have happened over in this area. And then we've got... I like how we go from that like picturesque, like little, very well-kept grounds into a bit more of a slimy situation over here, if that makes any sense. Like,
yeah, I wanted to transport this like kind of backyard or back alley feeling.
Yeah.
Over here.
It's almost deceptive because it's well lit, so it doesn't feel like it's a spooky alley. But the overall, yeah.
I originally had these lanterns turned off,
right.
But then got issues with visibility, and I didn't want to crank up the ambient lighting too much, because then it would become flat in certain other areas.
Yeah, for sure.
So I opted to go with some not so natural lighting.
No, I think that's better anyway, for the sake of keeping things visible and shining a light on stuff. If we go into the what it could be construed as a middle, it's like a side passageway down from the statue area over there, the T-spawn area. One of the things that took me by surprise was the fact that this room exists at all. We get a nice little interior area, and then this ladder. I assume this is to give CTs some sort of map control should they want to push. Like they can threaten to backstab an exec or even flank out to this middle drop area.
Yes, that was one thing. The other one was that player feedback was that this area up here feels very isolated to the one... Oh, are you stuck?
Yes.
Oh no.
It's over.
Why do you do this to me?
This is the first time I've found that. I didn't even find that when I played it. But yeah, it's super easy. I just like fall off while hugging the back wall. But yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
I'm embarrassed now. Anyway, that the two paths, the two main paths, so the one at the river and the other one up here, they were too isolated from each other, and rotation felt very long. Even though I added some props here so you can jump up, but it takes away so much time, and that's why I added this little ladder room in that connects the two paths, basically.
Was there a particular reason you chose a truck as the bomb site?
Yes, actually, there was. I had the idea of having this kind of open truck where you have a sort of cover where you can sit behind it, like I do right now.
Yeah.
But also be on top of it. So basically, and also, it's a piece of cover that is that you can look through in through one direction, this one, but not from the other axis, basically.
Yeah. So there's like a window almost.
Very unique. Exactly, it creates a very unique cover situation. I just wanted to experiment with that idea a little bit.
Yeah, personally, one of my favorite aspects of it is the fact that there's like so many dimensions to just the cover alone, between planting inside the truck, the fact that there's like so many different ways that you can elevate your position. Like there's a lot of ways that you can ramp up that clutch simulator aspect of Wingman just by virtue of the little platforming areas that you put together. I am curious as to like how the testing showed CT positioning in general.
This position that you're in was very much liked for matches where oops, scared me. Jesus Christ.
Well, surprise.
For matches where terrorists would aggressively push, especially along the riverside.
Yeah.
Generally, stats showed that this position here is the most used one. Where you have a very deep angle into the riverside choke point, and can also quickly adapt to helping out your teammate on flank or lightly covering the drop from here.
Was there another one that was mostly like outside the doors, or how did the second position generally work to complement the one that you were just talking about?
I don't in here using this little cover. It's really hard to flash into this area, so
yeah, you always have some advanced knowledge. It looks like, unless they're essentially on the riverside and they find a lineup. Well, even then,
you can throw it over that yellow thingy. Yeah.
Even then, there's like a propensity for that to miss, or
yeah.
Yeah, like it could depending on how you line it up, it could potentially like go too low, and then you'd like absorb it from the cover or something. So yeah, it is definitely difficult, but it's good that it's possible if you know the map.
So that's one of the positions that you can hold the back alley from, and the other one that was also, oops, according to stats, people like to use the corner back here on CT actually.
Did you actually get a chance to get some sort of like heat map of anything, or how did the?
Yeah, so the map is playable on the Faceit Wingman hub right now, and they're kind enough to provide me with some stats and heat maps from the matches that are played.
That's awesome. So it seems like I'm curious if you have any thoughts on any areas that were like problems that got changed before it was uploaded for the contest or whatever. Like, what were the last couple of things that you ended up changing, and what was the reason for the changes in that sense?
The last couple of changes were probably different configurations of cover around the bomb site. For the longest time, I had only one of these crate stacks on one of the sides of the truck instead of two. Now there are like two large ones, and I kept switching them back and forth, like one time on the left, one time on the right. Kept playtesting it, and then in the end decided to go with both, actually, like adding them on both sides and give players some even more options to play an after plant, play close on the site, like that. So that was one of the last things. Post-release, not much has changed. A little bit visually, but also back here on CT. We had some weird head peaks for drop from here, and I lowered this entire area just a little bit so you can only see someone when they jump. Yeah.
Oh, I see. But I would still potentially get some like score by banging or something. So that's kind of
cool. That's possible. But it was like pixel headshots, like weird, very weird engagements.
It's funny, you and FM Pwn both have that like thought process almost or whatever, where I've seen him do something similar where he'll like look at a map and he'll be like, does anybody really want to play this angle? And he's like dancing back and forth while somebody else is looking at him like barely seeing his head or whatever. That's pretty funny.
It's really fun.
Yeah. One of the things that I will say is, it does feel a little bad that if I jump over this, I take some damage, even though it's not a little. It's only a little bit. As a T, that means that's the difference between 98 in one and well, I mean, it puts me down to 98 or 97 or whatever. So like a headshot, it actually does make a gameplay difference, which sounds weird, but I don't know if there's really much that you could do without.
I could. That is actually. I just realized why that is the case. It wasn't that way in the gray box. Everything was cool and smooth. Yeah. You didn't take any damage from jumping down there. Problem is, in the art pass, I added this little trim at the sidewalk.
So you get elevated just by a bit.
Yeah, you're elevated by like 8 units or so, which is just enough to give you a little bit of damage.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to lower it, but then you'd have to lower the whole trim for like this whole right side of the buildings for consistency, and then you'd probably want to lower it from over here or whatever. So.
Yeah, the drop itself is something we reworked a couple of times.
See you rolled. Yeah, I'm curious as to if this was a position over here. This looks like it might have once upon a time been a.
Nope, no? It was never. It was suggested by one of the playtesters, but I'm like, no, might be a little bit too much.
Well, you do have a nice sight line into this porta potty, so it could have been banging.
I'm throwing smoke.
Nice smokes.
I'm not sure which one is more useful. Yeah, I lined them up based on these details. Yeah, one of the things that I like about the way that this map has played out is that there's like something that Rolt actually brought up was that Ts can rotate quickly and change tactics. And the fact that like as a CT I was still rewarded for pushing up and taking control, but it was more so rewarding in like, okay, now you have the same tools that the Ts used to have to like leverage and retake or something like that, you know, to reaggress. So. Yeah, I like the fact that the passageways aren't so large that it's like, I don't even know what you would try to line up for, but like you can, in theory, smoke off this tunnel with one smoke, and then you can make a push for the little elevator room or whatever, the ladder room.
Yep. That was one of the intentions of the placing of the ladder room.
Yeah. So. I think that's pretty cool.
Where the exit is. On the other hand, if you do that, like if you throw a smoke here, I've tried this strategy or tactic a couple of times. So I smoke off this area here and then sneak into the ladder room. It is daunting to go up the ladder there.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going on up there.
You would have to wait until like your teammate also got some contact, maybe.
Yeah, but that way it comes in handy that people can, for example, flash from down here into the tower area.
Oh yeah, you could throw a flash for me to come up the ladder in theory. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, in theory, I could also use the smoke over in this area. I could use that to not only like I could use it just to threaten to go in there too. It's almost like a mind game. So there's a bit of a different vibe to that as well, I think. So.
Yeah, and one of the interactions that were also intended was kind of touched on it a little bit with throwing flashes over the drop to this main road. That also works together with someone pushing through the stairs.
Right, yeah. So it's not just, it's basically it's like what we were talking about on recovery, I think, where the tools that you have, if they offer more than just one thing, right? Yeah. It's like that if they can be used by multiple teams or by one player in multiple ways, that's like added value to the tool, and then you don't need like 6 different passageways or all these other things, right? And like in theory, the map itself is not really like this map is not supremely complicated. It's very what's the term, like intuitive. I feel like you pretty much know where to go. Like maybe there's a bit of a learning curve with the CT area as a T when you first like switch sides, and maybe the same is also true for the Ts when they're first playing it. But after the first round or so of each team, they'll have some understanding of what to do, where the strong points are at. And yeah, no, I think it's a nice, like it feels like there was a logical decision making for every step of the way, if that makes any sense. Like,
yeah,
I can trace back the idea to open up this, like, or to have this area be a drop. I can trace that back to a couple of different things. Like, oh, there's a use for CTs to throw utility. There's a use for Ts to make fast reaction plays. There's, you know, like I can basically, one thing that I don't know if you've experienced this when you're looking at other people's maps, but particularly newcomers, they can't really explain why they did a certain action. They just did it, not necessarily really knowing what ramifications it would have or all that stuff. Whereas what separates the wheat from the chaff in terms of mapping, usually if there's a map, there's like an opportunity basically to if there's a map of a certain caliber of quality, or like the map maker's just experience, you can kind of tell based on the fact that they're able to give you whatever reasoning you might for any sort of decision that you asked them about. Like when I was asking you about like, oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And you're like, oh yeah, well there was this and there was that. Like a lot of people might just be like, because it was cool, LOL. Yeah. So I mean that's just something that comes with experience, but it's refreshing to be able to say that about a map, whereas some of the maps that we've looked at more recently have been on the beginner side, and as a result, it's harder to trace back what the reasoning might have been, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I generally, I think it's very important to design with purpose, and give every element that you put in a specific purpose.
Right.
Even if it's something small, like this little bench was put here initially to look over this crate stack. It was a little lower. So you would have like a little weird angle into the door area, but you can still use it for like cheeky off angles, and sometimes even I also found some weird nade lineups where it would bounce off the slanted wood here further into the bomb site. But that's of course not intentional. Like it would be a lie if I said that was my intention.
I could imagine somebody being like, well, yes, everything that happens on this map is 100% intentional. Precisely what I was hoping for.
There are also, like, the bench itself also is a little bit of a remainder of a specific purpose that it had. And then I changed the area around it, but kept it.
Didn't go deep enough. Well, yeah. It's pretty, I think there's just enough complexity for Wingman as well that, like we were saying, you've got the tools and you've got the intuition. So you've pretty much given the players what they need to make plays. So, yeah. I hope, I'm sure people have had some positive things to say about the map in the, since it's been added to that Faceit stuff.
Yeah, people seem to like it. And every now and then I like watching a game or two that's being played on the Faceit hub. It's always fun.
Help.
Stop. Make me cry.
It wasn't even intentional that time. Well, pretty cool stuff. Glad we got a chance to look at it with you here. Would have been unfortunate if it was like the first map of a map analysis video or stream where you weren't here. I'm not sure if you're down for any more, or it's been 2.5 hours, so totally understandable if you're calling it.
Let's do one last. How about that?
Sure. So this was actually requested by somebody who DM'd me on Twitter. This is Offshore by Kokopelli. I somehow don't have this map. Even though I'm subbed to it on the workshop, I was not able to... Oh, crash. I was not able to... I wasn't able to find it on the list, so I ended up adding it in here. Figure we can throw it in there.
Is that the oil rig map?
It might be. It could be possible. Dude, I'm not used to seeing so many people playing CS at the same time because I added some of the mappers for the show. I have a feeling that this is going to be a growing list of just mapper men in casuals testing their maps and stuff.
Get ready to categorize your Steam friends list.
Is that possible? I actually haven't even tried it. All right, let's try this map again. I do wonder why it crashes more often in this.
The game has loaded third-party files. Please restart your game to play on official servers.
Well, I have the lobby.
I might as well.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
Unbreakable windows. Dude, this is another nuke map. Unbelievable.
Throw in the flashbang.
Oh.
Let's go, my brothers.
Tried to no clip and it did not work because I didn't have my exec done.
Showing you.
I will say it's a pretty novel map idea. Have it be an oil rig or whatever this is. A man-made island. My only disappointment there... Yeah, there's a helicopter there. My disappointed factor is that we don't have the Caribbean tease so that they can say, let's get them off our island. Just because it's a man-made island doesn't mean it's not an island, you know? I guess it's probably not their island at that point, but it's pretty good, in my opinion. Looks like we got in here through an elevator. Would have been nice to actually be able to use that, TBH, but I'm actually not sure how much verticality is on this map. So this is Offshore by Kokopelli. I think that's how you say that name. And nuke assets, classic. Seems to have been a hit with this stream. This is the third one today.
Yeah.
So CTs spawn on the bomb site. I was expecting them to spawn closer to the helicopter, but that's fine, I suppose. So we're bombing the oil rig. Interesting that we can plant the bomb in these like little cubbies. On the outskirts. That's pretty neat. Oh, couldn't get stuck on the drop area, so this map is lame, personally.
You're so mean.
So we can fall off. I should point that out. So I did that accidentally earlier.
I figured.
Yeah.
I
like
know
that
a little bit about that map.
Wait, what happened?
I know a little bit about that map. I've seen it before. And I know that there's, for CTs, the possibility to push that vent from here.
Yeah, so here's a window, and you can
take the leap
across.
of faith. Oh!
Check me out.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, dude. Ah! Listen, I teach people what's possible and what's impossible all the time by making crazy jumps and then failing the next ones. Failing simple ones, rather. That is really cool. I like that. So the timing is such that you can do some whack stuff. Haha, I made it this time.
Because you jumped on my head.
Yeah, probably. No?
What?
Oh god, dude. Movement
It's
king.
a ping. What the fuck?
Every time, dude.
Seriously?
3 for 3. There you go.
Okay. Ooh.
What have you found?
No, I'm good. I fell off.
Oh. Oh, I see what you're trying to do.
Check out this place here.
Yeah, imagine if you could
So,
just...
this
You know
is
that
what,
area that I jumped onto? If that trim was pathable across the whole thing, you could just, like, skate across the whole map.
Yeah, but I feel like it's misleading because it's the same trim
Yeah.
that we use on the other side here to jump down into the vent.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can make the leap of faith if you want to, but you don't actually have to. As a CT, you can just, like, walk in here. Well,
Yeah.
if you're a bit closer than that, you can just walk in. I don't even think you need to crouch. Yeah, you can just walk in with no movement skill whatsoever, so... Man, I hate the vent sound when you fall. It's so annoying to me. I don't know why. I just, like... It makes my skin crawl. I think it's because, like, I first experienced it in FM Pone's map, Sub-Zero, and when he, like, reworked Vent entirely, and I really liked the older version of that, but I think it was, like, OP for terrorists or something.
Yeah.
So he changed it, and when he did that, like, when you can't drop silently, but it's a spot where, like, the CTs can be really close so they can hear you. And so every time I make that sound, I'm just like, fuck! Like, gave it away. So that's probably why. Ow.
I, on the other hand, dislike the metal sound.
What,
The
when we're just
footsteps.
walking?
Yeah.
Well, get used to it, dude. This whole map, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's some cement. And then there's, like, a more pronounced metal one for the vent. Or, like, the catwalk, rather.
Yeah, I don't mind that one.
Honestly, this map is a lot of really fun angles and movement, which is perfect for wingmen.
Yep. I agree. Movement options are pretty fun, actually.
I think that we should have more of them in 5v5 maps too, but especially in wingman maps, like...
I do have a hard time figuring out the layout, though.
Yeah, that is true.
But that's like the nature of indoor maps, basically. It's really hard to draw a mental map because you don't have any vertical landmarks.
Yeah, you don't have like any exterior stuff that you can look at.
Yeah.
So.
But generally, the movement options are fun. The bomb site itself reminds me a little bit of like an Unreal Tournament arena, kind of.
Yeah. You have to descend from all sides. I don't think there's any option that actually puts you out on the same height level. So you have to jump down to plant, which is a commitment.
Mm.
In a way, it kind of reminds me of Enclave, which was like a Dust 2 asset map with red colors, if you remember. We did that on the third stream. And the middle was like basically a death sentence to go into if you didn't have control. Like, there's not really that much safety. There is a bit more safety here. And I do like that, like... Essentially, if you come in here from... What even is this? Okay, so if you come in here from the other vent... Like, if you make the vent cross safely, as a T, and you... Like, once you do that, you can come out in here, jump through the window, and drop and plant in this little cubby. So there's a fast plant option there.
Do you need to do that, though? You can go around here, too.
It might be faster. Let me see what the angle is. There might be a better reason to do it that way. Yeah, okay, this looks like it's actually just the same way, so that would be more of a rotation. Obviously, if you take a left instead of a right when you exit the initial spawn area, that will take you to the upper angle. And so I think the average play might be to send one guy through the window room over here, and one guy through this room, which then makes me feel like it's not like the CTs themselves are pushing on from the opposite side, so I wonder if maybe this is excess. Like, CTs spawn on this lower level, so they have to climb up. So one of them would go stairs, maybe, to hold this left area, and he's going to try to run to the vent. But he can be... I feel like the vent... Unless he makes this jump or gets boosted, it's going to be really hard for him to make the vent. I think you need to boost him to make this vent peak at the same time to see if there's a cross.
Pretty cool, though.
It is cool that there's that option. And then he can also, if there's nobody that he sees, he can also just, like, make the jump himself, right? And then suddenly he's in, like, the window position. Or he could go to their spawn. It is definitely going to take a few more games to get used to, like, a few matches to get used to the layout, though, and where the enemies could be. Like, that's it's difficult.
What I generally like about the grand design is that by having 5 entrances to the bomb site, or 4.5, let's call it 5, you naturally push CTs out of the bomb site, and they need to gain control of the map, otherwise they will be just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I really like that.
No, I think that's a good point to make, because if we look at it from that angle, it's like... There's... Even though CTs start on the site, that's not... You don't want to be on the site, really.
Yep.
Like, you want to be on there for as long as it takes you to plant, and then you want to get the fuck out. If you can. So... Yeah. The only thing I would say that's maybe missing in that respect is, like, it feels like maybe it's weird that the doors can't be... Some doors can't be opened or closed. I feel like if, depending on where the doors were, if it took some investment from CTs to rotate there and then close them to get an advantage, that might be beneficial. For essentially just removing one aspect of the CT concerns, but not sure. Then we have a 3-jump thing over here, but I'm not sure if that could be avoided really, unless you wanted to put a ladder up here or something, which would be really weird.
Here I don't mind it too much because the platforms are large enough to comfortably jump up here.
Yeah, you can maintain momentum to some degree.
Yeah. Doesn't feel quite as tedious as with the smaller boxes.
I guess maybe a position behind this orange double stack might actually be useful for holding defensively. If you're, like, peeking from both angles, basically. But the problem there is it's not safe.
Yeah, this one.
Like, you could get this held by another guy who he could be holding, like, up here, maybe.
Not really, though.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
yeah, maybe that, but he doesn't have any cover then.
Yeah, he has to, like, take the fight and then immediately change angles. So, yeah, it's not really that great.
I like that he has these larger pillars here to play around, though.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of cool gunfights happening in this area.
Yeah, this is a map that I would like to play, for sure. What were you saying? I cut you off.
A little bit too symmetrical, I feel like. Like, the ladder is exactly in the middle. Those two play the exact same. And... this crate stack is also conveniently placed in the middle of the room.
Yeah, the asymmetry the asymmetry basically begins with the entrances or whatever, but I can see where some more asymmetrical cover would actually be more interesting. It's just that, like, you'd probably want it on the elevated positions, instead of the lower positions. But yeah, maybe moving those crates would help in that respect. Maybe even like adding a third one over here to create a different sort of safe plant angle, either from upper CT or from like over here, safe from window or something. If you had like backsite control. Like if you had control of just this area, and you could plant over here somewhat safely behind like another crate that's here, that would allow you to be safe from this position.
Yeah.
And like the other guy would have to really push out to see you. So maybe that would be a nice tweak. But I would hesitate to change anything too drastically. Until we see more.
It works pretty well.
Yeah. So, pretty cool stuff. And I was able to make a jump that poLemin couldn't for a while, so that was pretty cool. Nice reversal.
I'm tired.
Yeah, there you go. Well, speaking of, I mean, it is quite late for you, so I don't know if you have any final thoughts on this map, but I think it was a worthy one to end on.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I would like to mention is these outer catwalks here. Feel very corridory and very narrow. I feel like some of them could be combined into like larger panels, or like larger platforms, rather than just being those small paths. Like this one, here works perfectly.
Yeah, it's nice and open comparatively. So maybe something that like extends this outer one out, or maybe just this area over here being.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking from
this corner with this little catwalk or something like that.
Yeah,
like
where I just drew the sight lines, I think would be really nice to have it be extended out into like a brick or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could even potentially do something like this to that, or maybe even further out, like this to that, because I feel like if you do something like that, you open up space to put some crates for cover, and then suddenly you can actually take outside fights, and utility lineups are going to be less like reliant on extreme precision. So that would be an area where I think the map could be improved upon, because I don't really see a whole lot of fun in taking and actually fighting over in those areas. Whereas like fighting from the vent is a cool fight, like vent into the whatever this room is over here. Is a pretty cool fight, and being able to move around and stuff, but there's not really a cool fight to take when you're both outside. And I think that extending this outward would be nice for that. It would also reduce some of the corridory feel, like you were saying. So yeah, as far as like lower hanging fruit or whatever, that would be one area. Otherwise, I think the map is pretty well detailed. I don't feel any areas that are like seemingly lying to me about what's gameplay space and what isn't, or confusing me in terms of details there. So pretty good job in that respect. Maybe a bit prop heavy, but not really that big of a deal. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Good points from you, poLemin. Thanks for hanging out and giving your thoughts.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, as always.
Yeah, we only have... I don't know how to see how many things I've selected. We only have 36 more maps. So, you know. But I guess that must mean that we've done a decent amount as well. Apparently, yeah, this is the 32nd one that on stream has been reviewed. So we're about halfway there, for whatever that's worth.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. We'll finish it eventually. Not sure when the next one will be. I was planning on Friday, but it's looking like I'm going to be booked out that day, unfortunately. So maybe this coming Monday, we'll see what happens. But thanks for everybody who hung out live, and thanks everybody who's watching on YouTube. And if you got some advice or comments or input for the mappers, let them know. We've had some people comment about their thoughts on the maps, and it's always nice to give the mappers more feedback. So feel free to continue that conversation there. Otherwise, I think that will do it. I think we'll sign off. So thanks and goodbye.
Bye-bye.